Okay, here starts part one of Rust Repair 101. You did see me going over this. I went over it with the needle scaler there first, just to knock loose all the big scaly chunks. I didn't go over the whole entire car, but just kind of, I picked a spot, being the driver's side pinch weld kind of area. Just started going to town. You can see how rotted away that section there is. Essentially what I'll do is just cut that out and weld new metal in. I may have to drop this little bracket here to be able to reach it the rest of the way to do it properly, but man, it's hard to say that it's not bad because it is bad. But I did take my angle grinder here with the knotted wire wheel. The brand of it's actually a Roughneck. But I went down you can see here where it's pretty clear. Essentially what I was doing was getting back to where the metal, you can see where it's, in front here. That is after being wire wheeled. It's still kind of pitted, but where it's kind of shiny, you see where that's probably like solid, good metal. Going up inside there where I can't really reach it, that looks pretty bad. I may have to replace that. Pretty much what I've discovered on this car and what I've decided to do is, obviously we're not going for originality, just trying to save a car that's really rusty. So what I'm going to do is essentially cut off the entire pinch weld, the entire length. You can see where it's good metal, or decent metal anyways. I don't know what it looks like on the inside, but I've come to, you know, shiny metal with the wire wheel. So probably what I'll do is go, you can see this is kind of like a rolled corner here. If you look, what I'll do is just go right, kind of leave that roll and just cut all the way down it, you know, long ways. I may cut back, you know, leave a little bit of meat on it so that way I could grind it, you know, pretty much right where I need it. I'd like to leave a little bit of a lip there to be able to weld to, but underneath the rocker, the side skirt here, you can just see it's gonna be, I mean, it's really soft, and dang near pushing through it with my finger. So essentially, I think the material, I'll have to look, but it should be okay out farther on the rocker. You won't ever see it anyways, being that it's going to be under the side skirt. So pretty much I figured, just to avoid the headache and trying to work with a band-aid, I guess, and the pinch weld was pretty far gone, I figured, you know, I'm just going to go ahead and cut it off. This area here, that'll all probably get cut out. I'll just box it in with some square tubing, just recreate like a lift point, I guess. Just kind of go over this up here. This was a pretty thick metal plate. I'm not going to be able to get it perfect, but I'll wire wheel that as well and just get it down the best I can, rust convert it, pour 15 it, and then undercoat it, and it'll just have to be what it'll be. But for everything that's kind of rotted, the best thing to do is actually just cut it out. Otherwise it's just going to keep getting worse. So that's what I've decided to do. I am going to see if I can afford a plasma cutter. I'm going to go look at one here very soon. I've got to go pick up some paint for Matt's car. But this is the very beginning of the rust repair on this thing. So best thing is just dive on in. You're not really going to hurt it any more than what it already is. So if you kind of follow along and see as I do on this, buy some weld through primer, so that way everything that you can't get to once it is welded, you do actually have primer on it to keep it from re-rusting. I think this will bring this car back to probably like 85-90% on rust, at least in being solid. I won't be able to get every last little bit, but, or, you know, make it perfectly OEM looking. Essentially, we're just doing it to get rid of the rot and make it solid again. So this is the very beginning parts, and next thing we'll probably be cutting the rockers off and cutting out any bad metal chunks and getting ready to replace those. All right, running to see if I can afford a plasma cutter for this thing. See all the oil? Well, I managed to score a heck of a deal. That is my new plasma cutter. So that is going to help really expedite the rust repair process on this car. Pretty much going to go right to work. I'm going to do a quick unboxing video of this to post separately on the channel. However, this is definitely it. I'm super excited. Next thing you see is me going to town chopping away, cutting off the rockers, not necessarily the entire rockers, but the rusty pinch welds, just getting everything removed, ready to be repaired. I'm going to hold off just in case on these, on the wheel arches. I know that I have the parts already ordered, but I haven't seen confirmation of them being shipped, nor have I seen them yet. So I'm just going to hold off on that. That way I don't have too much metal cut away on this thing right away. But definitely going to let it down, pull the side skirts off, and get ready to at least start cutting the majority of the bad metal away, getting ready for being able to repair it. So I will have to get some metal as well, but I might be able to get a little bit better deal buying it by the sheet. So finishing up, opening the box, get this checked out, and start going to town getting rid of the cancer on this thing. Alright, what I ended up doing, I pulled the wheel so I could get access to this little piece here. What I was thinking, the way that the clips look, the side skirt almost looked like it was supposed to slide forward to come off. I went to the back. It doesn't really have enough room to do that. So I'm guessing that the clips just kind of slide in that way when they're getting them ready to clip them onto the car. So what I'm going to have to do is go through, pop all these clips out, and get it ready to pull the side skirt off. That way I can see actually what we're working with. Right now the phone is kind of still charging, so everything that I'm doing on this side I probably won't show on the other side because I won't have enough battery. But I'll just be doing exactly the same thing on the other side when I tear it down. Launch some of my lug nuts, but that's the passenger side skirt. These things are actually really pretty good shape still. I won't even worry about doing any paint work to these, just maybe polish them up, hit them with a little bit of compound, a little bit of polish, and I think they'll look just nice and prime when we go to actually put it all back together once the rust is fixed. Well, she's definitely seen better days. I think this side is a little bit more solid, but it does have some spots that are pretty bad. I may get away with not cutting as much out to the edge of the rocker because it kind of has like a lip. The rocker kind of comes down and then it kind of dips back up. So might have quite a bit of good metal left there. Looks like you can kind of feel some inner structure metal as well in there. But anything that's rusted, chunks are falling out now. Anything that's rotted that I can get to decently, I'll just cut it all out. Might as well while it's in there to keep it from spreading. Alright, I've got an outlet that will reach my phone here. I'm going to pull this rear wheel off. As you can see, I've already kind of started knocking some of the loose rust and paint off of it, so it's a little bit kind of, you can see the rust a lot more than just kind of glossy bubbles. So I'm going to pull the wheel off and get to pulling the wheel liner. That way I can get back in behind, because I'm going to have to replace that metal as well. But get the wheel liner out of there and assess the damage. And I did get confirmation that all of my rock order parts for the engine rebuild, the patch panels here for these wheel arches, and parts for my wife's car all shipped today. So I should be seeing these patch panels by Wednesday, which is awesome. So I'll kind of go more in depth on that, how I'm going to cut these off and what kind of makes sense more to me. Somebody else might do it a little bit differently, but to keep from doing a lot of body work in actually like complicated curved areas and trying to recreate curves with essentially body filler, I'm going to try and work around that and work on a more flat area. So, but I'll go into that when I'm actually ready to start cutting. But for right now, pull the wheel off here and see what we got. Just about everything that poor liner hooks to is about rusted away. This one here you can see nothing. The one up still is. The stuff back here on the back side that you can't probably see, that's all kind of just flopping in the wind. It's all rusted away. I shouldn't just be able to pull that apart. That's where spot welds would be from the factory. I literally just picked it apart by hand. Okay, I went ahead and pulled the rear, like all the carpet in the trunk area. It was one bottom piece and then a piece on either side there. The back one is still in place, but this is about the extent of the rust, the rockers, and down on either side here. So with the plasma cutter, I'll just go ahead and zip all that out and essentially just make a couple patch panels, weld them in, and then seam seal it, undercoat it, pretty much just do that'd be pretty much it for the back here. The bottom side, I will be getting a little creative with the pinch welds. The passenger side, which is the better side, is pretty rough, so I am not dreading pulling this one apart, but pulling the driver's side apart, inspect everything that it's going to need as well. I'm definitely going to have, I'm hoping I don't have a whole lot of work in it, because the plasma cutter should make it a lot easier, but I'll have to measure, see how long of a piece of metal. I might have to use a couple pieces of metal to go the whole length of the rocker. But I mean, I don't want to jinx myself, but even though it is a lot of rust, the actual major rust repair should only take a day or two. So, I mean, I've started pulling the tail lights, getting ready to pull the rear bumper. I've got it separated from the quarter there. I gotta get this tail light out. Then I'll work on getting the rear bumper off. Once that's off, then I can pretty much go to town, start cutting out those two little well areas in the back here, and start sourcing some metal. But that is still on day one here when we moved it in, so kind of assessing the damage, starting initial tear down, and waiting until Wednesday till we get the actual quarter panel, the wheel arch panels. I'm pretty sure they kind of come up all the way to here, and then kind of, I don't know how far over they go, but they may come out to here. So I kind of figured I'm not going to do anything in here, because this is like the actual, you know, the bubble for the wheel flare. So I'm going to kind of come up above that. You can kind of see, I kind of trace it out by hand and just kind of go around it. That way, this is a lot more, this is just kind of like an all flat area. So when I cut it out, the seam, like I'll have to do a weld, I'll have to jump all over the place, just do little tacks, that way I don't warp the crap out of it. But that way when it comes time to do the body work and filler, it will be on the flattest part. It'll be on the flattest part of the quarter, instead of maybe down right along in this body line and trying to, you know, follow that contour and make that with filler. So I don't know if it's the proper way to do it, but it makes sense to me. So I'll probably be cutting it out maybe closer to this. That way, once I get my patch panel, I have a little bit of overlap and I can actually cut perfectly in between them. That way my lineup is about perfect. So it's a little bit more of an update here for day one. I don't know if I'll make much more progress tonight, but that's kind of the view down the inside of the rocker there. This whole corner area will be replaced. All this where it's kind of smashed and mangled, I'll cut all that off and kind of reform it. But pretty much anything that has rot will get cut off, and I'll just seal it all up, put new metal, and that's the biggest thing. Once it's new metal, prime it with weld-through primer, and then seam seal it really well. And obviously it's not OEM metal, it's not a forever fix, but I think it would definitely give it, this extent of rust repair should give this car another 10 years for sure.